This is a video from Lincoln Street Woodworks, and it's called I don't get why people fall for these myths. I'm gonna be trying to do a reaction to it. I don't know how well this will work, but we'll see, I guess.
Wood glue really is, or the real reason that your boards don't stay flat. Separating fact from fiction is downright confusing. Why do people sprinkle salt on their projects like it's a home-cooked meal? And is this hobby as expensive as most people would lead you to believe? Today we are going to
So, I'm thinking that it is fairly expensive to get into. I mean, depending on what your price range is. I don't have much. Like, I don't have that saw. I have a saw, but I have to buy a battery for it, and it's probably going to be like $100, and I just don't have that right now, so I haven't been able to have a saw. Everything that I've built has been just real awkwardly tall, or I have to cut it with a hacksaw, and that shit's rough.
Investigate common woodworking advice you might have heard, plus more to determine if it's just a silly myth or reality. One of the most fundamental tasks in woodworking is gluing two boards together. The problem is that glue can act as a lubricant, and when you apply clamping force, boards can start sliding around like a greased up pig. It's especially problematic on things like half-lap joints. Pretty good half-lap joint, you gotta admit. Now, at some point, some well-meaning woodworker decided that...
Okay, I've never seen those before. I'm not much of a woodworker, but I love the idea of it, so I'm trying to get into it. I like that little slit thing, how they just fit in there together. I feel like the issue is just too much glue. I don't think that's a terrible fix. If salt does help it, then that's heat. That would be awesome, but I'm not 100% sure that it will. We'll see, I guess.
Salt was the answer. You just sprinkle some table salt on the glue joint and boom, your pig is degreased and the board stays put. And let me tell you, YouTubers especially love this trick. It's in hundreds of videos and seems to sneak into the comments section quite frequently. And you know what? They are right. Well, partially correct. Let me explain. There is no doubt that the salt creates a lot more friction. How much? Well, you are in luck because my nerdy scientist friend Suman did a video testing this very trick, and the salt samples took over 5 times the amount of force to move the boards. That's quite an improvement. But like I said, there is more to the story. You see, salt is
I mean, it's going to be hydrophobic, but I feel like if you don't use too much salt, there has to be a perfect ratio. I think the only way to determine that ratio is with trial and error. But if you do too much salt, you have to add more glue, which would add more chance of it moving, so you'd have to add more salt. I think it could make a big old mess if you don't get it right within the first 2 tries. You should probably get it right on the first try.
Hydroscopic, if that's even how you pronounce the word.
Hydroscopic? No, fuck. I'm stupid. My bad.
Which is a fancy way
Yeah, it's not hydrophobic. It fucking dissolves in water, you dumbass.
of saying it sucks moisture out of everything around it, including your glue. And then the salt.
Thanks, bro. I really needed that.
Doesn't. Those are actually 21% weaker. And after breaking them, you can actually see those undissolved salt crystals.
Okay.
So yes,
so
the salt will
weaker,
create more friction, but that comes at the cost of potential gaps and a weaker joint. If you're doing something crude with 2x4s, have at it. For nicer furniture projects, not ideal. Alternatively, you could use
so I'm gonna be using salt, but if somebody's out here trying to make like a nice table for their grandpa or something, don't use salt.
very fine play sand and sprinkle a tiny bit on it as it won't absorb the moisture like the salt, or you could even use ultrafine sawdust. But my preferred method is the following. You apply the glue, wait a couple minutes, and then use the clamps. By waiting that short time, the glue will start to tack up and be much less slippery without compromising its strength. Let's file this one under half true.
So the key is patience. if you're patient enough and you get the right glue, everything will work out fine. Just don't wait too long because it'll dry before you attach them. Then you're shit out of luck, because that's going to be a big old gap from a big old bunch of dried old glue. You have to sand it off there.
Half bad advice, half YouTubers looking for views. I think that's 3 halves. Nice math, John. On to the next.
All right,
if you
John,
can't
let's
build
see it.
everything perfectly square, you are a bad woodworker. Look, I get this one. You got...
Nothing I build will ever be a perfect square. It is always going to have a janky leg, something going wrong. Like I said, I don't have a saw. I'm not out here trying to measure things. I'm out here trying to enjoy myself.
bozos like me making videos talking about buying the most accurate squares that are guaranteed to be 90 degrees plus or minus half of a human hair, and machinist tools that should be used to build spaceships, not farmhouse coffee tables. So for the average woodworker who's watching at home, especially the beginners, you likely assume that everything we build is dead nut square, or at least within the 0.0004, 10 100ths of a thousandths of an inch. But let me inject a bit of reality, because let's say I FaceTimed some of your favorite content creators without telling them that I was going to put this into a video. Hey, quick question. How often do you actually build something that is perfectly square?
Perfectly square? Nobody checks a live edge for square. Just saying.
Well, it's funny you should ask, because I'm right now in the middle of building a ton of cabinets, and none of my panels are square. It's like Jason Bent built these.
What do you mean? Always, mate. Alright, Nick doesn't count. He's clearly an actual woodworker, but even with my own builds, it's hit or miss. Wood is just an imperfect material, and unless you pay top dollar for plywood, it has potato chip tendencies. And solid wood, it can be predictable, but even after following all the rules for milling, grain...
Yeah, bro, I don't think I'll ever care about something being perfectly square. Like, the only place I care about symmetry is Minecraft. And if you can make it look nice without being symmetrical, it's fine. It's only if it's an eyesore. But something being off, fucking... If it's off by a hair inch, I might notice it. It might bother me. One day I might decide to do something about it. But at that point, it's just build a new table. One day I'll get tired of it and build another one, and I'll find another issue and focus on it. Years, be like, fuck it, I'm building another.
Orientation, sometimes it just moves, and there's really nothing that you can do about it. You will learn as you gain more experience when you can cheat a little bit, like using overlay doors that cover up cabinet box imperfections instead of inset, which highlight the flaws, because the human eye is actually pretty good at detecting something wrong with the reveal. Little cheat code on inset though, a slightly bigger reveal, like 1/8 of an inch instead of a 1/16 of an inch, will make it harder to see if something is out of square. You didn't hear that from me though. Speaking of 16ths and 1/8 though, any drawers that are built within 1/8 of an inch of square are going to function perfectly fine. Additionally, you might have built a box that has 90-degree corners, but it looks out of square when you verify with a measuring that has 90-degree corners, but it looks out of square when you verify with a measuring, and that's because the board might have bowed out a touch. The safest way to truly verify is a combination of a square and measuring the diagonals from corner to corner. So please stop beating yourself up. Thankfully, friends don't go around checking for square when they come over to your house, and if they do, it's likely that they're a serial killer. This one is a complete myth, unless you're a handsome Australian named Nick.
Yeah, no, the squareness, not an issue. I prefer functionality over looks. If I can make it look nice too, that's cool. But if not, I just want it to work. If it works, I'm happy.
Wood glue alone isn't strong enough. Now, the glue debate is always fun, and a couple years ago, a gentleman set the YouTube world on fire. Well, as on fire as you can be catering to our boring demographic. But nonetheless, his video proved just how strong glue is, even on end grain to end grain glue ups, which has long been thought of as the forbidden fruit. On long grain to long grain glue ups, like these coffee table legs, it's absurdly strong. You really don't even need reinforcement. However, I want to focus on a different joint that is always a point of contention, and that is drawers. Now, in my last video, I showed three.
Honestly, I think I prefer screws over glue whenever possible. Like, I would rather break off the end of a screw and sand it down so it's not sticking out, but it's going through there, or shove a bolt at the end of it, and then, like, glue something, especially if I don't trust the glue, and I wouldn't be out here buying high quality glue, so I'm gonna stick with screws for now at least. Glue's probably cheaper by the end of it, but fuck it.
Ways to make drawers, and the easiest, most beginner option has a bottom that is simply held in place with glue and brad nails only. And the old grumpy woodworker folklore that has been passed on from generation to generation without ever verifying has a major issue with this construction method. You get hyperbolic claims that it will only hold a couple toothpicks. So rather than anecdotally give you countless examples from my own experience, I thought it would be best to show you just how strong the glue is, because it is wildly impressive even on plywood end grain. Okay, me and the Blue Dog just spent a couple minutes getting this all set up. All you need to know is that the bottom is completely suspended. It's going to take all of the weight. Pay no attention to the fact that it's completely torqued out a square. It might kill us. We'll find out in a second. Now, each one of these bricks weighs 5 pounds or 2.26 kilograms for our metric friends. And before you watch all the way through, pause the video right now and take a guess how many bricks you think this will hold before it breaks or tumbles down and we have a really bad day.
All of them.
While the shop supervisors help me stack these bricks, I also owe you an update on Mave dog food. About a month ago, I switched these spoiled pooches over to Mave, which is a human-grade, protein-rich food that doesn't have any fillers, there's no additives, it's flash frozen, so there is no mess, weight control. A side note, at least someone is getting love in our house.
To be fair, that's not the worst way to do an ad. At least he still had his, like, normal video running in the background, just, yeah, I get it.
I'm also happy to report back that Bingo is losing weight. We actually just got back from a vacation and they are feeling rested and ready to get back to doing nothing to actually help me while I film these videos other than being cute. Maeve also has treats and other daily supplements, everything that your Poochie needs to eat right. So check out Maeve in the description below and enter code LINCOLN at checkout for 20% off your first order. It goes a long way in supporting what we do. And thanks to Maeve for sponsoring this video. Last 3. Ugh, that was anticlimactic. We're gonna need more weight. All right, I'm certain that I'm gonna regret this, but
Ha, I was right.
ugh, in the name of science, let's just add some more weight to it. Please don't break. This would be catastrophic. Oh, it worked. All right. There are now over 400 pounds.
That's the type of chair that I would make. Sitting up that high like I'm damn near touching the ceiling. Just because I don't have a damn saw.
Of bricks and Skinny John on top of this drawer box. And the important thing to remember is that most standard drawer slides, they have a weight rating of 50 to 100 pounds. So it's pretty likely that those are failing long before the bottom is ever going to give out. And I think that we can all agree, glue is really, really strong on its own. And keep in mind that most furniture, it just isn't subjective to that much force under normal circumstances. Also, the idea of something lasting 100 years is overrated, if you ask me. I mean, there's a reason that most of us don't want our grandparents' furniture in our own homes. So unless you're building something to sit on, you really don't need to worry.
I would love to have my grandparents' furniture in my own home. My crib looks like it's real out of style. Couch looks like it's from the 70s. My AC looks like it's ancient as fuck. I keep saying fuck. My bad. I got sidetracked there. Let's keep this going.
Worry so much about the strength debate. Build whatever you want, and in the unlikely event that it breaks, you fix it. I think we can agree that this one is mostly fiction, and I really want to get down now. Okay.
I was gonna knock his like bricklaying ability because it looked a little jank at first, but he built a fine ass tower there. That was pretty damn good.
You need thousands of dollars of tools to start woodworking. Whenever I create beginner-centric videos, which is a lot of the content that I make, I like to use what I consider to be beginner tools. You know, circular saw, a drill, a sander, occasionally a router. And inevitably, I get dozens upon dozens of comments that accuse me of being out of touch with reality, because most people are so convinced that everything I'm using costs thousands of dollars. Spoiler alert, they don't. Now, I do understand in the context of my shop, where there are actual tools that do cost thousands of dollars in the background, it might give people the wrong impression. But I looked this morning and you can buy this very combo kit from Ryobi for less than $200. It even
Okay. On God. That might have me sold. I might have to look into that. Comes with 2 batteries, and I have a battery for I think that brand. I think that's what my drill is, so shit, I might have to look into that. Shout out Lincoln Street Woodworks. You a G, man.
comes with this cute little vacuum. That leaves $2,300 to buy a palm router and fit into JG Omo's budget. And that's all brand new. I got started buying used, and if you're patient enough, there are plenty of awesome deals to be found. Yes, you can certainly.
Now, I don't think I would mind buying used. I think as long as I can test to make sure that it runs, I think I'm pretty chilling with buying used things. That's not really bothered me.
Make this hobby very expensive, just like many others. But the barrier to entry isn't remotely as high as most people would lead you to believe when they start blasting off in the comments section. Tool acquisition is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, watch me talk out of both sides of my mouth with this next statement. All of that being said, you do need tools to build things. So don't expect me or other people to show you how to build a set of cabinets with an old handsaw and a hammer. I like to use the analogy.
Hey, I'll probably teach you how to build something with an old handsaw and a hammer one of these days when I get bored enough and it's not blaring hot outside. That'd be a fun video.
See that in order to play golf, you need clubs. In order to make something other than a birdhouse
I play golf with my feet. I turn that shit into football.
or a tree fort, you do need tools, but it's not thousands of dollars worth. All of that is complete nonsense. While we're on the topic of tools, a quick bonus myth, or maybe a thought is more like it, but I've always been a proponent of
That's a nice cabinet. I fuck with that. That's real cool.
using your battery platform based on their secondary tools, and then you just run with it. Marry the brand and hope for a fruitful marriage. Every brand makes the usual suspects like drills and saws, but not everyone can turn you into super dad ready to win yard of the month. It's
See, I would like to do that, but I do want to upgrade my tools eventually if I ever have money. And I don't want to be, entirely super bought in on the cheapest brand. Like, want to at least make it up to Milwaukee or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll marry a brand when I'm more settled and have more experience.
the main reason in this video about Harbor Freight tools, I told people to avoid the Hercules drill because their offering is just too small. But boy oh boy did the comment section eat me alive. I was haunted in my dreams for the next 3 weeks about battery adapters. And the idea with these is the following. You can take one of them and you can hook it into your main battery platform and then use the one-off tools without having to purchase a battery and the unique charger.
That's the coolest shit ever. A shout out. What the that's so cool.
If it goes in. There we go. Obviously, the catch is you need unique adapters for each different manufacturer. Makita to Ryobi, Milwaukee to Ryobi, Milwaukee to Makita, so on and so on. Look, I'm willing to admit
That's fine, because if I only have 2 brands of tools, I only need 2 sets of adapters. Okay.
that I was wrong about staying in your battery platform. It's no longer mandatory since the adapters came out. I guess open relationships are just more accepted these days. But call me old school because I am sticking with Makita whenever possible. I just find it nonsensical to put an adapter on anytime I want to use the drill.
I do also wonder if that ups, like, safety risks. What if that thing catches on fire?
I was wrong. Maybe it's not a myth, but suppose it's bad advice if you're dead set on a specific tool that goes on sale. When gluing boards together, you must alternate the growth rings or it will never stay flat. Now, this is a topic that I've talked about before, and it's a bit like moths to a flame for the angry grumps like Nick that don't even know how to spell cliche. But I want to clarify some points and present new information about a way to fix potential issues. If all this is foreign to you, trees have growth rings that you can see on the ends of boards, and after you cut a tree down and you mill it up the cheapest way possible, which is called flat sawn, you will see frowns or smiles on the ends of your boards. As those boards dry out and the moisture escapes, the rings want to lay flat, which can cause boards to cup. The theory is that when you're gluing boards together to make a panel, alternating happy and sad faces cancels out the cupping. If one board wants to cup up and the other down, they balance each other out. If you ignore that, you're screwed, or I guess cupped. Either way, this
seems like a pretty common sense way of thinking about it, but usually the truth is stranger than fiction, or whatever the saying is. So I don't think this is going to work.
Supposed experts say that you're in trouble, and beginners who don't know any better often sacrifice the best looking sides of certain boards because they're worried about following this advice. But it's really not that black and white, because you're often trading a cup for a wave. If you don't believe me, here's a tabletop with alternated rings made from Home Depot 2x6s that weren't properly dried. If wood wants to move, it will move. And too often this topic is approached by discussing the symptoms rather than the cause. Did you hear that, pharmaceutical companies? There are two main reasons for your panels cupping, and they both deal with moisture. First, if you use wood that isn't properly kiln or air dried to 6 to 12% moisture content, depending on where you live, it's going to keep moving after you're done building. And that's why the Home Depot 2x4 tables look like this, even with the growth rings alternated. I've got a video explaining this in much more detail that I'll link below.
Okay, that's fair. I'm not too upset when my shit warps. I might have put a new table head on the table out there. Man, I still haven't posted that table video. This is probably gonna go before that table video. I gotta get all the clips for that and edit them together. It's gonna take a while.
However, even if you do use properly dried boards, like I did in this panel here, and you alternate the growth rings, like shown here, when one side is exposed to more moisture than the other, or a more likely scenario, which is you only apply finish to the top and not the bottom, your panel could eventually cup. Not always, but it could, because wood is constantly adjusting to the climate around it. And if one side of your table releases and absorbs more moisture than the other, over time something is going to give, and that something is your table staying flat. And you can test this theory by spraying one side of a perfectly flat panel, like this one, with a little bit of water and leaving it face down overnight. When you come back in the morning, it's likely going to have cupped. The neat thing is you can reverse the
That was a lot of cupping for that. That's honestly kind of crazy. I didn't expect that.
cup by flipping it over and, you guessed it, spraying water on the opposite side. Just be sure to keep an eye on it because it won't take more than a couple hours to get back to flat. If you leave it too long, it's just going to cup in the opposite direction. This is why it's so important to sticker and stack wood during milling and after a panel is glued up before it's finished, so that the air can flow evenly on both sides. So the next time that you see a comment or you hear someone spouting off this nonsense like it's the gospel, know that it is much more.
Yeah, I'm working with wet wood for 90% of the time. I'm gonna deal with the consequences from that. I might get mad at it occasionally, but I'm gonna live with it for now.
Or nuanced. If you follow proper milling procedures using dry wood that is fastened correctly with rails and stiles, aprons and stretchers, breadboards, and you finish all sides of your project evenly, you can feel confident picking the best looking faces for your panels without having to worry too much about the grain orientation. And remind them that this is how you spell cliche. If you want to learn more about selecting the right wood or seeing other silly myths, check out these videos. We'll see ya.
Thanks, dog. That
So
was
how often
informative.
do I build
Shout
something
out.
perfectly square? You're breaking up. I can't really hear. I'm driving through a tunnel. John, gotta go.
Hell yeah.